tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here too. I'm here too. Rah! It's always Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, live from the Johnny Woodard, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. That's right. Go to SamTripoli.gold, and for as little as $50 a month, you too can get precious metals sent right to your house. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. SamTripoli.gold. Get in it to win it. Guys, we have a great podcast for you today. We got author Thomas Maier coming on talking about Mafia Spies. This weekend, I will be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Murder Circus, and then that'll be followed by Tulsa, Oklahoma. Get in it to win it, guys. And then again, Quiet drops October 15th. You can find it on SamTripoli.com. You can find it on SamTripoli.com, and you can find it on Rumble as well. They're getting behind the show, so that's great. And let's get into our interview with Thomas Maier. Let's get into it. He is an author. He's a journalist. He's got 8 books out, and he's here to talk about Mafia Spies. Please welcome Thomas Maier. How are you, sir?
Very well, Sam. Thank you so much, guys, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Honor and a privilege.
I even brought a tin hat with me, just in case I need it.
We love it. The more the merrier. When we do live shows, people come in tinfoil hats, and we appreciate their enthusiasm. So thank you. So, Thomas, for those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Sure. My name is Thomas Maier. I am a longtime reporter for a newspaper here in New York called Newsday. It's here on Long Island. I worked there for 40 years. I just left, and basically what I've been doing is now writing books and doing writing a movie, and also we have a TV show called Mafia Spies that's out. That's based upon a book that I wrote 5 years ago. You know, it takes a long time. We had a little thing called COVID that happened, so kind of got delayed a little bit, but it's out on Paramount Plus. It's also available on Showtime. I think you can get it other places as well, like Hulu and Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a Paramount Plus 6-part series, and it's fundamentally about two top gangsters, Sam Giancana and Johnny Roselli, who were hired by the CIA during the Cold War to kill Cuban leader Fidel Castro. And their story is just it's an absolutely true story. It's an absolutely true conspiracy that took the CIA about 50 years to acknowledge. They actually formally acknowledged it in 2007. So I always thought, I've done other books. I've done books about the Kennedys. I did a big book about the Churchills and the Kennedys. And as part of that, I just was aware of Sam Giancana. I used to work before I worked for Newsday, where I worked for 40 years. I worked for the Chicago Sun-Times, and I had covered a couple of different crimes. So I was aware of Sam Giancana as the head of the mafia out in Chicago during that time. And Johnny Roselli, who was really the key for me in putting the story together. He was part of the Chicago mob, but they sent him out years earlier out to Hollywood, and he was the mob's guy out in Hollywood. So he's a fascinating guy. And they both got involved in running the mob's casinos in Havana, Cuba, just before Castro takes over in 1959. And when he does, he throws all the mobsters out. They're incredibly upset about it. So the mob wants to get Castro out of there. But also, what happens is that Castro allows the Russians into Cuba. And in fact, we actually have a big confrontation called a Cuban Missile Crisis. Yep. And so we always wanted, the United States government wanted to get Castro out of there. And so these two forces, the CIA and the Mafia, got together, and that's the beginning of the story. And to do so, they particularly hired these two guys, Giancana and Roselli, to try to kill Castro.
This also kind of falls under like government cutouts, where the government doesn't necessarily do it, but they somewhat, whether it's out in the open or behind closed doors, hire somebody else to do the bidding of the government. We see that a lot in government contracts and other stuff, black ops. So if you think about this time, it is so crazy, all the stuff going on. So you got the CIA and the mob working on like many different assassin projects, right? You know, we have JFK and Castro. It's very interesting because, you know, I mean, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to know that there is a fine line between law and crime. You know, it's like so you got the CIA, which we all want to believe is law enforcement. And then we also have the mob, which is, you know, crime. So, and it's crazy how often they work together more than not. I mean, we somewhat see that happening right now in Mexico with the cartels. There's a, you know, when Obama, go on, sorry.
Yeah, you know, this book would not have been possible when it was happening. In fact, when it was all happening, the rest of America had no idea that, for instance, we had a war going on down in Florida, that we had the CIA with all these Cuban exiles who had fled Cuba, who were being trained as an army to go back to Cuba and invade Cuba. We didn't know. That was all done in a very hush-hush way. And it didn't come out till about 15 years later. It didn't come out until about the mid-70s. And a lot of this still didn't come out until recently. About 5 years ago, President Trump allowed the papers related to the JFK assassination to come out. And although those papers didn't have any smoking gun or any great revelation about the Kennedy killing, what it did have is a lot about the efforts by the CIA to kill Castro, which the Kennedys were very much involved in. And those papers, there are literally thousands of papers that were released in 2017 and 2018. And that really helped make Mafia Spies possible, because it gave me a lot of, you know, if this is one big jigsaw puzzle, it gave me a lot more little pieces to help make the overall picture come into view.
So crazy, man. It's just so nuts, that time in history.
It is.
It is. And you know, the releasing of, it's very interesting because, you know, Trump wanted to release a lot of papers, and one of them was going to be the JFK assassination. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to release this. So we have to wonder what is actually in those papers. The connection between the government and the mob is well documented. Where do you want to begin? How does this ball start rolling? Well, real quick, before I get into that, do you find it absolutely insane that they couldn't take out Castro? I mean, you think about how small this island is and what they had, and the CIA, the mob, everybody's trying to take this guy out, and nobody was able to do it. He died.
Yeah, it's like whack-a-mole, you know, where you keep on try to hit the mole. And that's why these papers that I was talking about that came available about 5 years ago, they provide a lot of insight about how Castro put in informants and double agents, not only in Cuba where he was, but he also planted them in Florida so that he knew a lot of what was going on in Florida in the attempts to kill him. He was a lucky bastard. There's no two ways about that.
For sure,
But
dude.
he definitely was. But what we didn't know, and these papers that became available that had been confidential for 40 years, 50 years, is just how much they became aware. There's one particular guy at the CIA, a guy named Bill Harvey, was kind of described as the James Bond of the CIA. But he was a very smart spy, and he got involved in this, overseeing this project after a couple of failed attempts, and they brought him in, and he definitely had his suspicions about certain people and whether or not they were double agents. And there's a lot of conflicting loyalties and interests in this story. And so, these papers help explain that.
It's absolutely insane. So we get into where do you want to begin? Because I've been reading a lot of books on the Kennedy assassination, Maier, Lansky, and all that stuff. And
right.
So where would you like to begin?
Well, I have to say, my book has a ton of footnotes in the back of it. I spent my whole life as an investigative reporter. And so what I'm getting at is this is a true conspiracy, and there's a lot of documents that are cited. The Mafia Spies is based upon FBI files. They're based upon court testimony. It's based upon Senate and House testimony. Johnny Roselli, for instance, testified, and he didn't say a lot, but enough that it provided. And so when you put all these pieces together, I have a huge writing outline when I put this together. And as I said, many footnotes. So it's, like I said, it's a jigsaw puzzle, and you can actually get a better understanding of what was motivating people and all the different contradictions and conflicting motivations. But it also provided, to me, a real interesting analysis of the two characters themselves, the two men, the two gangsters. In many ways, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but fundamentally, Mafia Spies is a buddy movie. It's two very different type of gangsters, and I'd be happy to explain that. I mean, Sam Giancana was big pals with Frank Sinatra. And I think this gets into a lot of Sinatra's world, the Rat Pack, and such. Johnny Roselli, who was not as well known as Sam Giancana, but much more fascinating. I mean, he was like a Casanova guy in Hollywood. And this was a man who dated beautiful women out there. By day, he's working with the studio heads to fix labor contracts and get rid of troublesome people for the studio heads in Hollywood. But at night, he's going out with people like Lana Turner, who was a big beauty from that time period, a very well-known actress. He went out with, he knew Marilyn Monroe very well. He went out with Donna Reed, which is the one, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, but what is she doing with this bad boy, Johnny Roselli? But he was a very handsome guy, and he was a guy that just, women really were attracted to. And one of the women that he is introduced to, that he actually lives in the same apartment place out in Los Angeles, during this time period, we're talking about the 40s. Johnny lived in a place called the Garden of Allah, which was this place in Los Angeles, kind of like this condominium place with a big pool and a lot of young people, a lot of actresses, actors, and their resident mafia guy, Johnny Roselli, who was working with the studios. And he's introduced to a woman named Judy Campbell, who later became known as Judith Exner. That was her married name. But during that time period, during the 50s, she was known as Judy Campbell. She meets Johnny, and through Johnny, she meets Frank Sinatra, goes out with him. She goes out, and then Judy meets a young senator who's running for president. His name is John F. Kennedy, and she begins a 2-year affair with him in 1960, and it carries on to the time period in which Kennedy was president. And we know that because there are logged, the inscriptions in the log at the White House that have been counted of telephone calls between the Kennedy's office and Judy Campbell. And so Judy Campbell is part of Johnny's world as well, and she plays a real big part in Mafia Spies.
Wow. I mean, if you even look at like Marilyn Monroe, like she was like at the time of her death, she was like with several different guys, and one of them was one of the mafia heads. But then she started dating a Russian spy, and I think that's where she gets in trouble. But she's like with all these major politicians. It's like crazy to me. And then imagine if you're a young actress and you move into an apartment complex or whatever it is, and then there is a mafia, like the head of the mafia living there. That's got to be nuts, dude. That's got to be nuts. Crazy.
Yeah, there's a scene in Mafia Spies where Marilyn is at a place called Cal Neva, which was a resort right on the California-Nevada line. That's why they called it Cal Neva. And it was owned ostensibly by Frank Sinatra. Secretively, it was owned by Sam Giancana. Giancana was banned, as was a number of gangsters, from having any interest directly in casinos in Nevada, in Las Vegas. So they got around it, and Sinatra said, "Oh no, it wasn't involved. That's Giancana wasn't involved." But there was a weekend shortly before Monroe's death where she was out there with them, and this is a time period before Me Too. All this stuff, in the last 5 years, and where women. Even accomplished actresses by that point, like Marilyn Monroe, were still very much treated as kind of playthings among the controlling men. And so what happened in that weekend out at Cal Neva is still not very clear. But it's the involvement of Giancana in that world. I think what he was trying to do was somehow compromise things even further with Marilyn Monroe, the same way they were already doing with Judy Campbell. The whole idea was to get something on Kennedy. The fact that JFK had an involvement, a very clear involvement with Judy Campbell, that was dynamite. And there were a number of people by that point who were aware of that relationship. And in fact, Sam Giancana started to court and go out and date Judy Campbell as well. And that's how the FBI finds out about this relationship involving Judy Campbell, the President of the United States, and one of the top gangsters, arguably the top gangster in the United States, Sam Giancana.
So I've always had this theory, and this is not to get too far from your book and the show, but if you look at the most of your mafia, they're very they all have a Catholic base, and if you study,
so do I, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. They have a Catholic base.
That's why I said Xavier. Right? Xavier, I said your name. That's why, at Jesuit school.
Xavier is Catholic, dude. He's
yes, very much. I went to Fordham, it's a Jesuit school, and I went to St. Anthony's High School. So
Xavier just went to the border and he snuck over. So he's here with us today. And
there you go. Good for you.
Hey, TJ's got a nice public school.
Yeah. So and then you study this gets a little into the conspiratorial side, but you study where a lot of the Nazis went. They went to the Vatican, and you have Operation the Operation Paperclip. There we go. Thank you, Xavier. And where they brought a lot of these people over, which a lot of the Nazis over, which eventually the OSS, which was the intelligence agency before the CIA, becomes the CIA. And I've always said that it's kind of like two sides of the same coin in some weird kind of way, where it's like they're almost hand in hand almost. If we look at all the stories of like, George Bush and drugs being smuggled into the country, and then it turns out it's like they're using that money to fund Iran Contra and all that stuff. It's just interesting how it's step by step together. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you that again, that my special is dropping October 15th. Why is everybody getting quiet? And the reason I'm telling you that right now, because our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver help sponsor the whole special. They gave us they helped chipped in the cost of doing it. I can't thank them enough. And I really want to tell you about my good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. If you're paying any attention, you know that the de-dollarization is real. Oh, it's totally real, dude. The U.S. dollar is backed by nothing right now. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's right. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all things precious metal. Veteran owned and an A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. That's right. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, well, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. Just go to SamTripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, it's best to be the wolf. My question to you is, because, it's like the CIA technically at one point, I don't know where it is right today, was seen as law enforcement, and they're not supposed to operate on American soil. So again, they have to kind of have these weird kind of cutouts where at least that's the rule. Whether they follow it or not, I don't know. Right. So it's like, to have something like a mob, whether it's the Mexican cartels, the Italian mob, the Irish mob, the Jewish mob. There's several different versions of these mobs. Where does the genesis of this connection, between Sam and the CIA begin? How do they know he's the guy to do it?
It really starts with a guy who is a cutout for the CIA, a guy named Robert Maheu. And Robert Maheu got to know Johnny Roselli. And it was through Johnny Roselli that he was introduced to Sam Giancana. So that's how Giancana gets involved, to answer your question directly. Just to pull back, though, a little bit further, kind of so people understand. Back then, the CIA, these were guys that went to Princeton, they went to Yale. They didn't want to get involved in getting blood on their hands directly like that. So they were told by the president, Eisenhower, to get rid of Castro, to saw him off. That was the phrase. Everybody speaks in euphemisms here, and so it was their job to get rid of him. So how do you do that without directly getting part of the any members of the CIA directly involved in murdering somebody? And bear in mind, just one step further back. Back in the early days of back in World War II, we really did not have an intelligence agency. That was something that was created called the Office of Strategic Services, I believe it was, OSS. The OSS. Truman, who became president right at the end of World War II, decided, we don't want to do that. And there was a big debate within the government about whether or not we should have an intelligence agency. Believe it or not, there was a guy named Stimson, who was the Secretary of State, who said just earlier to that point, gentlemen do not read other gentlemen's mail. That basically he was saying that we don't need, that's really not the type of thing that diplomats should be involved. Now, of course, that's laughable, that view, but that was our stance. Somebody like Winston Churchill, that's laughable. He absolutely believed in this power and the need for good spying. And the Russians, oh my God, they obviously, as we know right now, but their dependence upon spying, their belief in spying goes back more than 100 years from where we are right now. So they have a long history. So do the Brits, so do many other people. We were the oddity in saying, oh, we don't think so. So they decided to create the OSS. They did it. But then Truman, at the end of World War II, ends OSS. He just unilaterally says, thanks, everybody, you did a great job. That's it. And for 2 years, we didn't have any intelligence agency. And then they realized by 47, we really do need this. And it also because the Russians were finding out about nuclear secrets and such. And there was a lot of concerns there. But even when we had the early days of the CIA, it was all about intelligence gathering. In other words, we would spy and collect data and develop sources and such, but we were not actively engaged in covert actions. And that's where Mafia Spies comes into place. In 1959, 1960, what they saw as an existential crisis with Castro, they saw that, bear in mind these guys like Alan Dulles, who was running the CIA, he had been involved in World War II. Yeah. And all these guys, they said, geez, if we had gotten Hitler in the early days, before World War II started, or in the early days, if we had gotten him, would the world have been a much different place? Would millions of lives been saved? And so, cut to like 20 years later, Alan Dulles, now running the CIA, they're looking at Castro as almost that type of threat. A guy 90 miles away from Florida who's sucking up to the Russians, basically, and the idea of nuclear weapons. And also the Russians had developed the Sputnik satellite in 1957. And that sent shivers down the spine of policy makers in Washington, because we thought we were way ahead of the Russians, and now they're the first one in space. The idea of a nuclear bomb on the top of a satellite like Sputnik, that scared the bejesus out of everybody. So getting rid of Castro was a super high priority, first for President Eisenhower, and then the Kennedys, they inherit these plans, and they pursue it very vigorously themselves.
Yeah, and the thought of like Russia putting nukes in Cuba or missiles in Cuba scared the crap out of everybody. And it was a giant threat, which is so nuts because we have bases everywhere. I mean, but we were going to get some of our own medicine right there, and they didn't want that at all. I'm just shocked that an island 90 miles from our coast is like such a different vibe than right here. It just does amaze me. And because he was communist, he got embargoed and they were shut down right there. And you have Operation Northwoods, which is the story of, basically they wanted to frame Fidel Castro as causing a war and shooting down a plane. That was the length they were going to go to try to get that guy out. And it ended up not happening because Kennedy vetoed it. But that's how they saw it. Like how we see our media and how our State Department and the Pentagon paint some of these people on in Russia and in the Middle East is how they were looking at Fidel Castro as, the boogeyman that we had to get rid of. And it's very crazy to me, dude, because it's such a tiny, tiny, tiny island. And the lengths in which they would go to get rid of them. And the fact that they didn't is just so shocking. It's still it's amazing to me that it never happened.
Well, world was a different place back then in a couple of respects. First of all, the fear of nuclear weapons. I'm old enough to remember when kids were taught to that you put your head under the desk, and the whole idea we would have some type of air raids, and there would be bomb shelters, and then we talk about tin hats and whatever, but there really was a lot of not conspiracy, but paranoia back in the early 60s about having, and it was well placed, the paranoia. It was a lot of fear, public fear. People would build bomb shelters in their backyards. I think you could actually get that from like Sears or like today, Home Depot. You go to Home Depot instead of the snow blower or whatever. I'll have that bomb shelter there and put it in my backyard. And that's the type of atmosphere back in the 60s in that regard. Also, the press was very different back then. The press was all male, all white male fundamentally. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
That sounds like the glory days to me. Go on.
A lot of those guys, and I worked for some of those guys, as a young reporter. I know they came of age in the military. Everybody had served in World War II. So they were used to saluting. And they were used to understanding there's a general, and then there's a colonel, and a sergeant, and we're all privates, and all that type of stuff. And so there was more trust also in the government, and that was a good thing, generally speaking.
That's a great point. That's a really great point, and you could say that in society as whole, like. Yeah. Everybody used to join the military. All the men would join the military at some point, and they would come back with that kind of military discipline that they applied to society. And we don't necessarily, more and more people, they're having trouble meeting their numbers. And we can get into why that's happening. I have my own personal opinions.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really great point. I've never even thought about that. The discipline that comes from the, World War II, everybody was in the military coming back. Now they're in the workforce, and they're just applying that kind of military discipline to everything they're doing. That's a great point. That was a really great.
Well, I think that's one of those things where it's hard to imagine by today's standards, because we've had between Watergate, Vietnam, the Iraq War, going into a war where there really wasn't any real basis to it, and all of the various and all the disinformation that we have received, particularly from people like the Russians, who this was like a new toy for them in the last 5 or 7 years. Their ability to get onto social media and put disinformation involved in campaigns and things of that nature. That's like a whole new spying tool for the Russians, and other countries as well. So it's a different time and place. But what's important, I think, particularly for today, is that Mafia Spies represents the first time that the United States got into the assassination game, if you will. In other words, instead of just saying we're going to collect information on the Russians and any other adversaries, what we will also do is get involved in covert action. And we had been involved in the 50s in some degrees in trying to influence elections and whatever. But in 1959-60, the word coming down from Eisenhower and then from Kennedy's is to get rid of Castro. It was covert that we would go in many ways attempts to try to kill Castro, and that now we are in the killing games. Now we're in the world of assassination. So the CIA is not only involved in collecting information, but now they're essentially overseeing killing, assassination. And that was a big Rubicon. It was a big fence to jump over for a lot of people. Obviously, as I mentioned, the guys who were running the CIA, we don't want to have any blood on our hands. So they hired this guy, Bob Maheu, who had been a cutout, who actually went to Holy Cross at a Jesuit school. And he claimed later on that he had a big, he had to go home and he had to think about whether or not he wanted to be involved with this. And I describe it at length in my book, Mafia Spies, but, he goes home, he puts on the stereo, has a few drinks and thinks about whether or not he should get involved in trying to kill a foreign leader on behalf of the CIA. And eventually he decides, yes, I'll do it. As I mentioned, I think they all had that Hitler idea that, in other words, if Castro is such a threat here, like Hitler, and if we can take him out now, we would save ourselves a lot of agony later on. He would save the world. And so he goes ahead, and who's going to do it for them? So Maheu was working for a guy named Howard Hughes, kind of like the Elon Musk of his time period. Howard Hughes was the richest man in America, and Maheu worked for him. He did a lot of odd jobs for him. And one of the jobs was one time Howard Hughes wanted to get, on very short notice, a place in Las Vegas to stay. He was dating an actress named Ava Gardner, who later on gets married to Frank Sinatra. And Howard Hughes wasn't thrilled about that. In fact, he had Robert Maheu actually spy on, monitor Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner as part of his job. But Maheu also did jobs he had been in the FBI, but he did a lot of jobs for the CIA. He did odd jobs for the CIA. And so the CIA approached Maheu and said, do you know anybody that can help us? And he said, yeah, I know this guy, Johnny Roselli, who's a mobster out in Las Vegas, who, when Howard Hughes wanted to get a hotel room at short notice, I called around and I was told that Johnny Roselli is the guy who makes things happen in Las Vegas, that if anybody can get, a big suite for Mr. Hughes, Howard Hughes, on short notice, it would be Johnny Roselli. So that begins the relationship between Bob Maheu and Johnny Roselli. And the CIA considers it, and they first approach Roselli about it. Roselli is a guy who is an illegal alien, I shouldn't use that phrase, I guess, illegal immigrant into this country. He and his mother had immigrated from Italy and to Boston. And Johnny, his name was Filippo Sacco. That was his real name, Filippo Sacco. And Johnny changes his name. He was involved in some type of crimes in Boston, and he goes to Chicago, and that's how he gets involved with the Chicago mob. But Johnny, he thinks of himself as a patriot, and he says, yeah, okay. The CIA offered him something like $150,000.
Oh, at that time, that's even more money.
A shitload of money back then. It was like, easily about 1.5 million, 2 million by today's dollars to kill Castro. Now, bear in mind, they're already upset. The mafia is already upset because they had a big time casinos down in Havana. Back then, people didn't go to Las Vegas during the winter months. If you lived in New York, they would go down to Havana. That's where all the entertainers, Tony Bennett, Sinatra, they would go down to Havana. And it was a playground for the mob. They owned everything. In fact, Maier Lansky was the head of tourism for the Cuban government there. He oversaw that stuff.
Crazy, dude.
It is amazing. It was like a perfect world for the mafia back then.
Crazy.
And so in comes Fidel Castro leading a revolution from the hills out in the mountains, and he takes over, and he says he throws the mob out. So the mob, like I mentioned before, they really want to get rid of Castro. And so Roselli was very receptive, said, you don't have to pay me $150,000. I'll do it for free. I'm a patriot. In fact, Johnny Roselli was born on the 4th of July, no less.
Dang.
So he did that, but he said, I have to get the okay from my boss, who is his longtime pal, Sam Giancana. And Giancana thinks about it and basically says, yeah, okay, I'll get involved in it. And so there's a big meeting that takes place around March of 1960 at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, which I don't know if you've ever seen. I think it's Goldfinger, the James Bond movie, and that movie begins with an aerial shot of this the Fontainebleau Hotel, which is this big, white, beautiful, very stylish, very 60s type of building, and they have the big giant pool. And in fact, the beginning of the James Bond movie, they come in from on a helicopter, and then you see somebody on the diving board, when diving boards used to be like 12 feet high.
Yeah,
somebody does a double flip,
yeah.
and they go right into the pool. Well, that's where in March of 1960, Johnny Roselli, Sam Giancana, they meet with the CIA, and Johnny and Sam bring along another mobster, a guy who speaks Spanish, a guy who would deal with them, help them run the Havana casinos when they were running them in Cuba, who also spoke Spanish. His name was Santo Trafficante, and he was like the head of the mafia in Tampa. He also worked with Maier Lansky. So
that's the perfect mob name, by the way, Trafficante.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Santo Trafficante.
Yeah. That's the best.
And let me tell you,
ever.
you don't want to fool around with this guy.
Yeah, of course.
Because he wasn't a D's and Do's type of guy. He was a second generation mobster. He had a bow tie. He had glasses, even more nerdy than my glasses. Then it looked like the accountant. He didn't look like a mobster, but he was a really sharp, and he was very much a killer. And he was involved in this in a very complicated way in this whole story. And I think in terms of the last man standing in my story, there are two. One is Castro, but the other one is Santo Trafficante. So, that was something that I didn't really realize coming into this story. But as I did more and more research, and particularly as I got those documents, I could see that they had suspicions that Santo Trafficante would turn out to be a double agent. And so that was a big part of the story.
Hey guys, real quick, man, I want to tell you about our good friends at Arena Club. Listen, as a kid, I loved to collect cards, and now it's back on. That's right. Collecting cards is as easy as possible thanks to our good friends at Arena Club. For the most of us collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting. Johnny does too. But that's some real serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclubs.com. Now it's possible to score gems minted for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all the possible cards, and clear hit rates on each one of them. Johnny, what has your experience been?
I will say the first time I got a slab pack from Arena, I hit on this huge Mike Trout red of 5 card, PSA 10, beautiful card. I'm still holding on to it. It's worth quite a lot of money. It's a ton of fun. I also have quite a few of the cards in my collection on there. You can go check me out. I search my name, Johnny Woodard, on Arena Club. I'm on there all the time. Love it. Great service. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out.
So listen, right now, Arena Club is giving us a great deal. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil. That's arenaclub.com/tinfoil, code tinfoil for 10% off your first purchase. Yeah, guys, real quick. Again, I just want to remind you that Why Is Everybody Getting Quiet is dropping October 15th. So at SamTripoli.com and Rumble.com. And this weekend, I will be in Louisville at the Murder Circus Comedy, and in mid-November at Tulsa, Oklahoma at the Looney Bin. Anything else, guys?
Hit that like button, subscribe, go to XG Marks the Spot on YouTube for Skankfest vlog that's out now.
Check out New Broken Sin. We talk about Russell Brand and all the weirdness around him. I don't know what to make of it, but neither does Sam. Check it out, though.
Okay. I just want to say that this just enforces what I've always believed, is that everything was better when the mob ran it, right? I mean, if you look at Cuba, everything was flourishing. Vegas, I'm sorry, dude. I just went to Vegas. These banks are nickeling and diming us on everything. $25 to go eat dinner at the Caesar's Palace for the valet. Back in the day, they would give you that. So, but it's interesting that, they had Maier Lansky, who is like a very interesting personality, running their tourism. That's so crazy to me.
Was that nominal, or did he actually have or was that just him skimming, or was that an actual effective role? Was he the tourism thing?
Oh, Lansky, yeah, he was very actively involved. In fact, the top hotel. Well, he ran the Hotel Nacional in Havana. He built it, and it was his. And if you can still go down there. In fact, my wife and we went down to Cuba as part of the research, and there's still a big floor show at the Hotel Nacional. If you go onto YouTube, I actually put some of the video from that floor show just onto my my webpage there, just because it was so much fun. It was so retro too. It was really it was like, I mean, that whole Havana, even to this day, looks like it's still stuck in the 1950s, 1960s. But yeah, Lansky. In fact, if you ever watch The Godfather, Godfather 2, the second one, there's a guy named Hyman Roth, I believe the name of the character is.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in Godfather 2 where they have all the mobsters and they're all gathering in Cuba, and Michael Corleone is there, and they roll out a big cake, and the cake is in the shape of Cuba, and they literally start carving up the cake as if the same way they were carving up Cuba itself. And we have 3 clips that from the Godfather saga that appear in Mafia Spies. Mafia Spies is produced by Paramount, as was The Godfather.
Oh, perfect. That works.
Yeah, and so there's three clips. In fact, there's a number of recreations in Mafia Spies. And the guy who plays Johnny Roselli, Nick Annunziata, he was in The Sopranos. He was in 6 episodes of The Sopranos. So in terms of our mob bona fides, I think we have some pretty good, between the 3 clips from The Godfather and Johnny Roselli character played by somebody who was in The Sopranos. I kind of like that. I think it was kind of poetic justice as part of it. But yeah, I mean, back in the day, Lansky ran everything down there. And, just to get back to what I was saying about the Fontainebleau, because I know I go off and on, the story has a lot of rabbit holes.
We're all about it.
But with so it's here we are. Really, the beginning of the story is at the Fontainebleau Hotel, where they all get together. These Johnny Roselli, Sam Giancana, Santo Trafficante, and Robert Maheu, the cutout, and a CIA agent. And they meet at the Fontainebleau Hotel. What I always liked that was also that same time period, that same weekend, Sinatra was down there. And he's palling around with Sam Giancana. And why is Sinatra down there? Well, they were filming a TV show with Elvis Presley. So there's actually, if you go onto YouTube, there's actually a video of Sinatra and Elvis Presley singing together. That's down at the Fontainebleau Hotel.
Oh, wow.
At the same weekend that Sinatra's hanging out with Giancana, who's planning to kill Castro with the CIA. Now that is an amazing group, of circumstances there.
So Castro had a spy in this ring that was planning on assassinating him?
Well, Trafficante is somebody that you could almost do a whole program about, because when Castro takes over the government, they arrest Trafficante, and Trafficante had a kind of a mob attorney. In fact, he later wrote a book about himself called Mob Lawyer. So I'm not being unfair to him. They somehow got Trafficante out of jail in Cuba when everybody else was either lined up with firing squads or somehow were never seen from again. Somehow Trafficante got out. And that's before this meeting at the Fontainebleau Hotel. So there was always a question, bear in mind, Trafficante, his big business was not only Bolita, which was like this game of chance with balls that people would do in Tampa and, other type of things that the mafia does, but narcotics was the big thing for the mafia and for Trafficante. And if you wanted the flow of narcotics into this country coming into the Florida area through the Caribbean, you had to have the cooperation of the Cuban government. Whoever was in charge of Cuba, you needed, especially with Castro. So was Trafficante a double agent, or did he develop those conflicting loyalties? So, at this meeting at the Fontainebleau Hotel, he's presenting himself as a mafia guy who wants to get rid of Castro. So he's playing one end of that, one end of the candle. He's lighting that. But on the other hand, he's apparently involved with narcotics and needs the help of Castro's people in some way. And this is not my speculation. It's not only, it's a speculation, shall we say, of the top CIA guy, a guy named Bill Harvey, who when they're not having any success killing Castro, they bring in Bill Harvey, the James Bond, as they call him, of the CIA, to kind of oversee things. And he's the one in these documents that I saw that only became available within the last 5 years or so, it's really clear that Harvey has got a lot of doubts about Trafficante. He believes that Roselli is sincere and that Roselli is a patriot and that he definitely wants to get rid of Castro. But Trafficante is involved in some of these other plans to get rid of Castro, poisons, for instance, and they don't work out the way that they're supposed to.
It's
and
so crazy.
So Harvey has his doubts about Trafficante, and that's reflected in some of these documents.
You got to be absolutely crazy to cross both the mob and the CIA. Even this CIA in its form, where it's not necessarily aggressive and attacking, even though this is the beginning of that. Yeah. Like you said, it was like a little more of a observational than influencing outcomes.
Well, as I mentioned, I did books about the Kennedys. My first book, which was 20 years ago, was about how their Irish Catholic immigrant experience influenced the Kennedys. And we went to Ireland, and that was one book. Then I did another book about the Churchills and the Kennedys 10 years later. But what I'm getting at is I was aware of these different books about, the mob, Gincana, conspiracies, who killed Kennedy, and blah, 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 blah. And my head would spin, and a lot of it I thought was pretty thin, particularly as an investigative reporter. Not everything, and I don't want to cast aspersions on other people's work, but what I'm getting at with Mafia Spies is I always keep the focus on the two gangsters. They're my window into this. Like the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, where they open up, and suddenly it's all color. They open up, the doorway. Dorothy comes in. That's kind of like the doorway for me in this in the sense that I wanted to tell the story of these two guys, but they're the window as I go through all these different worlds. and I think that helps make it understandable to people. I think that's, in terms of my book, I think that's the thing that is the best thing about it, is that you can follow all this complicated stuff, and it makes sense because partly I'm always keeping it in the window of these two characters, Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana, and not going off on, or just dumping my notebook on the page. And I think, we tried to do that as well with Mafia Spies. It was done by showrunners Tom Donahue and Ilan Arboleda, and they were working with Danny Strong, who is a very accomplished producer, writer as well, an actor as well. And so, but they kind of did the same thing. Right? They followed the two gangsters. I think that makes it different than other documentaries or even other history books, where all the notes are thrown in. You have the talking heads. I always wanted to follow these two guys, and the fact that they were two very different men made it really interesting to me as well.
And that's streaming on Paramount right now?
I know I keep on saying it, but yeah, it's on Paramount and Showtime.
No, it's great.
If you go to Showtime on demand, they showed it on Showtime throughout the month of August. They started in late July through August. Oh, there we are. And so it's a 6-part series. And
so it's a docu-series.
Exactly. And it has recreations in it, but it follows the two gangsters. There's another documentary that I'm aware of that was done on another platform. It's a terrific documentary, but it's a very traditional documentary series with talking heads. In fact, some of the people that are in Mafia Spies are in that as well. What's different about Mafia Spies is it's really more a narrative about the two guys. There we are. They're our entry into this whole world, these two guys. And particularly in my book, I make a big effort to do it almost as a biography of these two men. And so, the fact that when I say they're very different men, they were both gangsters, they were both killers. But I was really intrigued by Sam Giancana, who was a guy who was put in as the head of the mafia and told, keep your profile low. Don't attract any attention to yourself. Look at Al Capone. Al Capone was like John Gotti, a big braggart, and he got his name in the newspapers. And what happened? It was attracted the FBI, and eventually Capone goes to jail on a tax fraud charge. And it really burned a lot of people in Chicago, mobsters who said, nothing like this again. So Giancana, if you're going to run this for us, we want you to stay low. And and the reason why they liked Giancana initially, because he was a married guy. He had a house out in the suburbs. He used to mow his own lawn out there. He had 3 daughters, teenage daughters. And then something terrible happened in Giancana's life. His wife, who he adored, he was one of these guys, that you ever hear that phrase, Madonna whore?
Yes.
Men who either idolize, usually their wives, or they have a girlfriend on the side, or it's Gumare on the side, and this Madonna whore type of view of men towards women. Not that I'm endorsing it, of course, but I'm just trying to describe it, and that's what Giancana was like. And then his wife dies. And now he's bachelor mobster father with 3 teenage daughters, and life is completely out of control for him. And in fact, his oldest daughter is a real hellion, as they say. She's a real cut up, and she's now 88 or almost 90 years old. She's in Mafia Spies. She's without doubt the funniest person in Mafia Spies. She's very funny. She talks about how she had the hots for Johnny Roselli. But she was a real handful for Sam Giancana, and he kind of winds up hanging out in Las Vegas with his old pal Johnny Roselli, And when he's out there in Las Vegas, he meets an actress, not an actress, a singer by the name of Phyllis McGuire. She was part of like one of the biggest singing acts on television and all around the country, the McGuire sisters. And she was like the lead sister. And she falls in love with Sam Giancana. And suddenly Giancana's in the papers all the time, and he's hanging out with Sinatra. And in Chicago, all the old gangsters, the older guys who had given him this power, the consiglieres of the mafia, particularly a guy named Tony Accardo, they looked at this saying, what the hell is Sam Giancana doing in Las Vegas, hanging out? He's in the paper all this time. We don't need this type of publicity, you know? And so that's Giancana. And as I mentioned before, Johnny was a different type of guy. He was married for about 10 minutes. He married an actress who probably thought it was a good career move to get married to Johnny because his closeness with the studio heads and such. There is a number of accounts that suggest that Roselli, for instance, was involved in helping Sinatra get a very key role in a movie because Johnny Roselli was very close to Harry Cohn, who was the head of Columbia Pictures, and he also knew a number of other studio heads. So, Roselli was just a different type of guy. He was the smooth guy who dated all these different women, but he also liked women. He really loved women in a Casanova type of way. And so it was very different. These were two different guys, a guy who liked to be married and his wife dies and he's kind of lost at sea and it's kind of things are not going well. That's Sam Giancana. And Roselli, who is the smoothie that is able to get all dressed up. He had his own tailors in Beverly Hills that he would go to. He was dressed to the nines, handsome guy. Literally, he was known as Handsome Johnny. And so the idea of these two guys in one big adventure story was, to me, a real interesting buddy movie.
So let me ask you, was there any actual attempt at taking out Castro by any of these guys? Did we actually have a moment where they went green light go and they went for it, whether it was gunmen, assassins, poisoning? I know you mentioned poisoning earlier. Was there any one shot where they're like, oh, we took our shot, it didn't happen? Any time like that?
Well, there was a lot of attempts to kill Castro. In fact, when he visited New York, there were plans to try to get rid of him. In terms of my two guys, Sam Giancana and Roselli, there were a couple of different things that went on. They would definitely, when they had that meeting at the Fontainebleau Hotel, the CIA says, and Maheu said as well, the cutout said, what we should do, you guys should do is get these machine guns and just shoot them and whatever. And Sam Giancana said, wait a minute, that's not the way we do it. The way we would do it is poison the guy. And this way we don't have any fingerprints. If you go into Cuba with guns ablazing, you're not going to come out most likely, or a large, that's a suicide mission for people. Whereas if they said, look, we still know people in Cuba from the days that we were running the casinos. And if they get close enough to Castro, we think we can poison them. That's what Giancana is pushing for. And Trafficante says, yeah, I know somebody that can do it for us. And so the CIA has a guy named Sidney Gottlieb, and he runs a lab for the CIA that specializes in all these James Bond methods of killing people.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, all these type of, in fact, the Kennedys liked this. So the Kennedys would look at some of these James Bond movies, and then the word would come down within the CIA from Alan Dulles and others saying, hey, this is in a James Bond movie. Do you think we could come up with a killing device like this? But this guy Gottlieb that I'm talking about, he develops pills that are able to be put in different places. They had one woman who who had been a former lover of Castro.
Oh, that's who you get, ex-girlfriends.
Marita Lorenz. And there's a big scene that's in Mafia Spies, both my book and the TV show, where Marita Lorenz goes back down to Florida on the pretense that she wants to get back with Castro. And they're in the hotel room together. And she goes into the bathroom. The moment of glory is about to happen here in the hotel room between the two of them. And she excuses herself. She goes into the bathroom, and in a jar of cold cream have been placed a couple of pellets of poison capsules. Unfortunately, the moisture from the cold cream made the capsules that made them dissolve. Oh. And so they were ruined. And so she couldn't do anything about it. And as she tells the story, she comes back out. And the way that she was acting, Castro said, "You came here to kill me, didn't you?" And he had a gun on the night table. And he said, "Well, if you want to kill me, there's a gun. Go ahead, kill me." And according to her, instead, what she does is she jumps into his arms, and they make love instead of she killing him. She goes back to the United States shortly thereafter, and that was one of the more dramatic scenes of attempts to kill Castro that didn't work out. But there were
that's the most guy story I've ever heard in my life, by the way. Like someone's coming to assassinate.
I know you're trying to kill me, baby.
Yeah, but can I get laid real quick before we'll forgive him?
I don't want to take it. Don't take this the wrong way, but so anyway,
put up that Castro literally said wood right after that. Wood, right?
Yeah. Castro had a great way of smelling out these things. He developed, with the help of the Russians, a really great spy network. And very quickly. And so he knew a lot of things that were happening or about to happen that he can anticipate. There was an attempt they knew that he liked to scuba dive. And so there was an attempt to put a CIA plan to put poison into a scuba outfit so that would kill him. There were attempts to just get rid of some type of depilatory so that he would lose his beard, and somehow he would be ridiculed in the eyes of his countrymen for losing his beard. Sorry, Xavier, I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas here. You too, right, Sam? But in a way, I think the most dramatic involving my two gangsters particularly is with Johnny Roselli. So, Johnny becomes really gung-ho. He's down there in the Florida Keys. He's training, helping the CIA train some of the Cuban exiles. And at one point, Johnny goes out in a group of boats in the middle of the night, and they're loaded with arms, and they're going to meet somebody, people in Cuba waiting for them. And as they get to the shoreline, and bear in mind, I don't know how familiar you folks are with that area, but like as I mentioned, it's 90 miles from Key West to Florida, and those waters are pretty swift. It's in the middle of the night. It's incredibly dark, as you can imagine. And so when they get to Cuba, when they get to the point, suddenly these lights come on, and it's Castro's security people who are waiting for them, and they start firing at them. And in fact, Johnny is in one of those, those rubber boats, and it takes on water. It apparently was hit by a bullet, and he had to jump out of the boat that he was in, and he got into another boat, and they wound up fleeing the site. But this is all an attempt to try to kill Castro. And that was something that was described by Roselli, and it was described by other people as well as part of my research for this.
Well, I mean, so how do you think this whole assassination thing affected, like, because right after this, JFK comes, right? So how did that all affect, the JFK investigation or the JFK project to assassinate JFK?
Well, the Kennedys, we were talking about Catholics before. I think the Kennedys like a lot of Catholics, were really outraged by the communist world, because even more so than Mussolini, for instance, Mussolini didn't disassemble the church. But when the Soviet Union took over Eastern Europe after World War II, they uniformly took apart the church.
Yeah.
And the Kennedys had a lot of connections. They were, particularly their father, Joe Kennedy, who had been an ambassador, and a very wealthy man, one of the wealthiest men, and really was the motor in the car for the Kennedys, if you will. He had very close connections with the Vatican. That was part of the first book I wrote about the Kennedys. I had access to Joe Kennedy's papers up at the JFK Library. And, when you look at the Catholic background, part of it was Joe Kennedy's connections to the Vatican. But the Catholic, a lot of Catholics were, particularly saw communism as a real threat to the church. And so the idea that now Cuba, which was essentially a Catholic country, was now in the hands of the communists, that was definitely part of the whole milieu, the whole motivation of the Kennedys, that time period. When JFK, though, gets killed, Johnson decides essentially to give up on Cuba, and he turns his attention quite fatefully to Vietnam. Our war against the spread of communism really shifts from Cuba to Vietnam after JFK's murder. The whole aspect of the JFK assassination comes up back in the 70s, when, after Watergate, the Senate is looking at the use of President Nixon. Part of the Watergate scandal was the misuse of the FBI and the CIA by Nixon. In fact, the Watergate break-in was done by a former CIA agent named E. Howard Hunt. But in any event, the Senate is looking at the CIA, and they realize about this plan to kill Castro. And that's when all the stuff about Sam Giancana comes up, and about Johnny Roselli, and also this woman named Judy Campbell, who back in the 60s she was a party girl who was hanging out with the Rat Pack and Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana, Sinatra, and JFK, who becomes president. And all of that was a secret for 15 years. Nobody in the United States knew about this until about 1975. And that's when the Senate finds it out. And they actually put it like in a very small footnote in a report about this woman. And they don't even name her. And of course, the press by that point is a different press than it was 15 years earlier. Woodward and Bernstein had broken the Watergate scandal. So the press was all over it. There's a guy still alive. His name is Seymour Hersh. Fantastic.
He's still going today. Still
going today.
Crushing it.
Good luck. Great reporter. And he was breaking stories left and right about that. So were the New York Times was really on top of this. This is like in 1975, 76. So they call Sam Giancana and Roselli, they kind of reel them in, both of them, to testify. And Johnny talks initially, but he really doesn't say much. And he says, "Why are you bringing Judy Campbell's name into this? She's a good girl. She's a nice girl, whatever. She's a sweet girl. You shouldn't be dragging her name into it." But of course, she very much gets involved. Her name does become part of it. But they also subpoena Sam Giancana, and the Senate sends out 2 investigators out to Chicago. And that same night that the investigators arrive, Sam Giancana has a dinner at his house, and one of his daughters is there. A couple of other friends are there. They go home around 10 o'clock, somewhere in that ballpark. They go home, and in Giancana's house, it's out in the suburbs of Chicago, but he had like this man cave that he hung out in. So it's like a furnished apartment that in the cellar, the basement of his home. And he had a kitchenette type of thing where he'd make himself a little dinner. And somehow, some way, somebody came in to this this downstairs man cave of Giancana's, and with a silencer shoots Giancana 6 times. Mainly one in the back of the head, I believe it is, but most of the shots were around the mouth, which is a mob way of saying anybody who talks is going to wind up just like this guy. And so that's what happens with Giancana. He's murdered in 75, and and Johnny Roselli obviously is really shaken by this. This is front page news when it happens. Key witness in this Senate investigation is murdered, and so they decide by 1976 to call Johnny Roselli back. And Johnny Roselli, by this point, the FBI has learned the biggest secret in Johnny Roselli's life, which is that he's here illegally, that his real name is Filippo Sacco. And in fact, the FBI agents come up to him and say, here's a picture. They actually were able to find a picture of him as a little kid and said, we know you're Filippo Sacco. And what that meant for Johnny was that he would be deported, thrown out of the country because he was here illegally. And they would do that to gangsters, that if they knew that they were here illegally, that was a way of throwing a gangster out, getting rid of a problem by throwing them out of the country. And Johnny realized that if he gets thrown out of the country, he's definitely going to be dead. So Johnny goes to his lawyer, at a very high-priced lawyer, and he basically says, I have something to tell the committee about who killed JFK. And he kind of like dangles that to the investigators. And so they make room for him to testify again. But before that happens, and by this point, Johnny's moved down to Florida. He's basically broke at this point. He's living with his sister down in Florida and her husband. And he tells her husband, he says, I think I've got a target on my back, and says that if I wind up missing, go look for my car in the airports, because that's what happens, is that they usually leave when they kill somebody. They leave the car, in like one of those big airport parking lots. And so Johnny goes missing. He went to play golf one day, and he never comes back. He never comes back. And the brother-in-law goes looking for him. He goes to one airport, he's not there. Then he goes to another airport, and there's Johnny's car. So now they're really flipping out in the U.S. Senate, because here they not only had that one guy, Sam Giancana, killed in Chicago, but now here, almost a year later, Johnny Roselli is murdered. And then what happens is they report him missing, and about 2 weeks later, not far from the Fontainebleau Hotel, believe it or not, in the waters in that area of Miami Beach, there's a 55-gallon barrel that comes bubbling up to the surface, and it's the chopped up body of Johnny Roselli. When the body's decaying like that, there's all these gases. So whoever thought they were killing Johnny and putting him in a 55-gallon that would go down to the surface of the water was mistaken, because with all those gases from the body, it raises the 55-gallon barrel. So they fish out. Some local fisherman reports that he sees this body part hanging out of a 55-gallon barrel. And so again, the Senate is all nuts about that. Oh my God, now we have 2 of our key witnesses that are murdered here, who are going to tell us about the CIA to kill Castro, and maybe even more about what else was going on, and perhaps even the Kennedy assassination. And what's interesting for me as an investigative reporter with this was both those murders of Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana remain unsolved. Yeah. But when you go back and you look at those murders, With Giancana, with the silencer, whoever it was that killed, there's a lot of debate about who killed Giancana in Chicago. Was it locally, or was it an imported killer, an assassin from out of town, if you will? Well, I think when you look at the silencer, what happened was when whoever killed Giancana must have heard the cops call, because Giancana had housekeepers in the upper part of the house, and they must have called the cops. The cops, whoever killed Castro, got in a car, but threw the gun with the silencer out a window about 1.5 miles from his house, and it was recovered. And when they traced the silencer, it went back to not Chicago, it went back to Tampa, Florida, the land of Santo Trafficante.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I always thought that was really interesting. And in the case with Johnny Roselli, about 2 weeks before Roselli is murdered, when he knew he had a target on his back, he goes to dinner with Santo Trafficante, who he still thinks has been his friend when Johnny was on the lam, and whatever. Trafficante provided some money to his family. So he's still thinking Trafficante is his friend, but he kind of knows that he's got a target on his back, that the people in the mob, the National Commission, is angry about the fact that they never knew about this attempts to kill Castro, that it was a secret that Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana kept from them. And basically Johnny at this dinner essentially is trying to make amends with, in other words, ask Trafficante in so many words, can you get me out of this? You know, it's almost like that scene again from The Godfather. Hey, Tom, can you get me off the hook? That type of thing. Hey, Santo. And of course, the answer is no. And generally speaking, Santo Trafficante was perceived as the responsible somehow, some way for Roselli's murder in Florida.
That's so crazy. I mean, when you get that high up, it's just, you're just with sharks. You're in a shark tank. And it's just like, you never know when it's your number, when it's more, it's better for the mob that you'd be dead than alive. I mean, that's just crazy life, dude. That's just this story's nuts, man. It was a great story, dude. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us it, man. So it's on Paramount. Anything else you got
Paramount
for us?
Plus, Showtime. Well, you know, I have this little novel called Montauk to Manhattan.
Yo, I love
that I'm pushing because it's my little baby. This the Mafia Spies that got Paramount and Showtime behind it. This is a novel that I wrote, and basically it's about two things. It's about they're making a TV show out in Montauk, and a lot of those experiences. It's a novel, so it's a fictional account, but it's kind of based upon my real life experiences with a show called Masters of Sex that was on Showtime for 4 seasons.
Who was that about?
It was about Masters and Johnson, who were sex researchers. I did a piece for Newsday, actually, about it, and I wound up writing a book about them called Masters of Sex. It was about this married couple. They weren't married initially. They studied love and sex, particularly sex, and how the body worked. And they were dealing with a lot of married couples, but they were like the go-to people in during the whole sexual revolution. They would be on TV all the time. Masters and Johnson, they were like a brand name. And so I did a book about them. Virginia Johnson was still alive. I had interviewed Masters as well for that initial article, and it became a Showtime series. So every year, my wife and I would go out to Hollywood, out to the Sony studios, which is where Masters of Sex was filmed. It was so much fun, needless to say. You know, you're behind the scenes, but I was a producer of the show, just like Mafia Spies. I was not a writer. It was based upon my book, and I would be consulted about it. But I did get a sense of what it's like to see a TV show being made. So I used that idea in this novel, Montauk to Manhattan, where they're making a TV show. It's the summer of 2016. And it's based upon a book written by a reporter, not unlike myself. There's the main character is a guy named Jack Denton, and he's kind of my alter ego. My life went one way. His life is completely in a dumper, but he's covering the Trump campaign for a paper just like the New York Times. And he's working with somebody not unlike Maggie Haberman of the New York Times. And he's covering the Trump campaign all during the summer of 2016. At the same time, they're filming the show out in Montauk. And so I'm trying to capture that time period when everybody said, wait a minute, could Donald Trump really become president of the United States?
That was a crazy time.
It was, it's hard to imagine now, but back then in 2016, people say, could he really become president? And of course he did. And so I was kind of capturing that. But Jack Denton, the main character in Montauk to Manhattan, it's kind of a satire of that whole time period. It's a lot of jokes in it. It becomes a murder mystery because there's an actress that goes missing, and at the very end, it comes to a head as to who killed this woman. When they have a big party for the TV show, they've made the TV show, and now they're showing it at the Morgan Library, which is this big library in Manhattan, which is where in real life Masters of Sex had this huge party. Showtime had this huge party this was like 10 years ago. So I kind of used that experience as well. And so there's a lot of people in it so I think it's a lot of fun. And, it's certainly different than Mafia Spies in that regard. So, I'm pushing it only because it's my baby.
I love it. And we'll put links to both books in the description below. And Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great discussion. I'm going to be honest with you, man. The more and more I study this stuff, the more and more I go like, man, the intelligence agencies' influence on our life and our culture is like, it's so incredible. Almost everything is like an intelligence trick at this point. And just to hear the connections. I mean, I've been reading a lot about the JFK assassination, the mob's role in that, the crime syndicate's role in that. And this just is like just a hand in hand right with that. So thank you so much. You were excellent on the show. It was a great interview. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
Sure. I have a website called Thomas Maier Books, and you can find both my books on Amazon or any other, online bookstore. And, just one last point, Sam, before we go, I think it's really incumbent on us to have people of good character in all of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies. And I think both those agencies did have a lot of reforms. But I think it's really incumbent upon us, particularly when information and misinformation is so prevalent, for us to have the best people who follow the law and who are committed to protecting our Constitution and our institutions that provide us with the freedoms that we rely on for our markets, for our very lives. So I think that's one of the real morals of the story, if you will.
Well, I love what you're saying. It's like I get a little nervous when we start getting into like misinformation and stuff like that, because it's very easy for the powers that be to label somewhat the truth. Like even this story, let's say you come out with this story when it's happening, the government could easily be, well, that's a lie. And 4 years later it comes out true, but they never come back and apologize for that. But I think you're right. I think it's right, but there's people like you, and a lot of people think journalism is dead. I don't think it's dead. I think it's just gone super indie, and you see a lot of people out there doing really great work, and you just got to find those people that are out there taking truth to power, and just and again, like my grandfather was a cop, my cousin is a cop. They're good people. So there are good people out there, but I think we also have to have a class of journalists whose job it is to be fearless and take truth to power. And that's why I love what you just talked about right there, and the role That you don't see a lot of people doing that right now. So I think it's important. Again, thank you for coming on. And I look forward to talking to you again down the line when you got another project you want to talk to us about, because this was an excellent episode. So thanks for coming on, Thomas. We really do appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's break down this episode. All right, man. What'd you guys think?
I wonder where we are with spies right now. Like, where we're in the future of spies. Where are we now?
That's a great question, XG. For somebody that was fighting for his life during the whole show, that's an excellent question to ask.
Now, where are we? Where is Chapo? Does Chapo got spies? Does the cartel?
Well, I think this is I didn't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole with him. But I 100% believe people like Chapo are a controlled op. They're just like middle management. They're, that their job is just to run a territory, and that's what they do. And the whole time he's just donating to the Clinton Foundation and all that stuff, right? I mean, and then they just at some point they got to throw somebody in jail because they got to act like they're doing their job. So they're just which one of these employees do we want to throw in jail? Boom, right there, right?
Well, you kind of know when you sign up, right? It's no different than Diddy. Hey, man, you're going to live a life of luxury for a very long time. And then at any point when it's convenient for us, it's all going to end for you.
Yeah, and then some people make it through and they don't get thrown under the
and
bus,
you may not.
right?
Yeah, it's like the Godfather deal, and the Godfather's like, hey, this day may never come, but I may call on you at some point.
Yeah, 100%. I found it very interesting. I had to bring up Maier Lansky. I think Maier Lansky has a bigger role than most people want to talk about in the crime syndicate, the Italian mafia. The Jewish mafia is very powerful and a big role in this. A lot of people don't want to talk about that again. So it's I think that's very important. But I mean, really crazy story. Great. I mean, I could listen to him talk forever. He's a great speaker, and I thoroughly enjoyed what he had to say. And it is so crazy, the characters that used to be out there, and just wonderful, wonderful people. He had a little weird reaction to the things are better when the mob ran anything, but I don't know why, but I find
I think he's probably thinking about the violence, the way they enforce things was, no trials, take you out back, blow your brains out kind of deal.
Right, but I'm not in the mob. But if I go to Vegas, I can get a 99-cent cocktail,
exactly,
and not have to pay for valet parking. Right, I'll take
so
it.
What?
You guys can off each other all you want. Just don't charge me for valeting. That's all I'm saying, Vegas.
So what if they break people's bones for counting cards?
What do you? I mean, maybe you shouldn't be counting cards, Johnny. Huh? Is that
illegal.
Against the rules of the house?
It's not illegal.
Not illegal.
Okay.
Not illegal. Do you think if Trump had some of Castro's people, they'd even get an attempt?
Dude, well, that's saying that you believe that that's real. That's my opinion. I don't. I mean, if you look at how many layers Castro had, and what it took to even try to get close to him.
Yeah. Way back then too. I mean, although the assassination technology now is
so much better.
Yeah, if they want you dead, they're not shooting you. They're not having some kooks shoot you, bro. There's some guy can be 2 blocks away with a blowgun and just like that. You have a heart attack 3 weeks later.
They can hit you with some sort of direct energy weapon. Just understand, what we're seeing now is old tech. They got stuff that we won't even know about for 30 years.
Yeah, it's like the salt that they sprinkle on your salad, or you know what I'm saying. They bring the food out to you and you die 3 weeks later.
Didn't the VA just acknowledge direct energy weapons?
The Veterans
something like
Administration?
that?
They all are. Dude, everyone's talking about it. And then you still have my liberal friends on Twitter go, dude, they think you control the weather. I'm like, how are you this smart and this dumb at the same time? That's half the reason I retweet half the shit I have, because I have a bunch of liberal friends. I'm like, you need to see this. You need to get out of your algorithm.
It ain't showing that to them, dude. Even if you're following somebody, if Twitter doesn't want you to see it, they won't show it to you. I've noticed.
I know.
I've had to change. So annoying.
Yeah.
Have you noticed now half the comments on a post on Twitter are just other shit that's it's not even replies to the post. It's related like videos and stuff that they're trying to get you to click on?
You got to scroll and not like, I mean, at least on Instagram, when I go click on comments, it gives me whatever I want to hear or see. But if you keep scrolling, it starts like giving you shit that has nothing to do with you. If you get what I mean, it'll like, if the first
Twitter now, you get 2 comments and then like 3 videos that are kind of vaguely related, but they're viral. You know, it's like, hey, watch this cute puppy fall down the stairs. So annoying. And I don't know if it's better or worse. You know, I heard, who was it? It was Jordan Peterson was on Bill Maher. It's kind of an interesting discussion because Bill Maher really likes Jordan Peterson, surprisingly, especially given his stance on religion. But he like really likes him. He's kind of open-minded to the whole maybe his book and everything. But they were talking about, and this Bill is just off on this. He's talking about how Elon made Twitter a mirror of what it used to be. He made it like a right-wing insanity echo chamber. But really what happened was all the people in the right wing and you know, just normal people who were being censored were allowed to talk. And the left wingers hated that so much that they just all quit the platform is what happened.
Yeah. But they'll come back because I love Twitter. I mean, it's a little crazy, but I take crazy over what it was before, which was just a bunch of astroturfing bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, and now is it perfect? No. Is Elon Musk a good guy? Jury's still out. For me, the jury's way still out. I'm not going to sit there, but I feel like there's things going on in the world that people are waking up to that if Twitter wasn't around, we wouldn't be hearing it. Johnny caught YouTube censoring me on positive shit. Right? It's like so crazy to me. It's like if you do positive vibrational stuff, you'll positive vibrational stuff happening. This is hate speech against a certain group. I'm like, what? This
gotta be a mistake. I can't find, nobody will reply to me, and they confirmed it by manual review. And I typed in the appeal. I was like, listen, this timestamp you have here, there's nothing but just like, you know,
positive love.
Yeah, it's like positive, the power of positivity. What's the deal? And it just came back confirmed.
Am I the only one on Threads?
Yes. Why would you be on Threads? Is there any butthole on Threads?
No, there's nothing on Threads.
Yeah.
Instagram, they made an effort. I was on it for a little bit, and it's just dead. Like you said,
it's just... Johnny has faith in these classes that Mark Zuckerberg's making. He hasn't made one thing that worked outside of Facebook. He bought Instagram. You know, I mean, basically jacked Facebook. Yeah, but that's the point. I mean,
how do you feel if you live in LA, you drive a Tesla, and then Elon Musk just over there endorsed Donald Trump? What do you do with your Tesla?
Yeah, they're all going nuts.
None of them will do shit. They will not do shit. None of them will do anything. They'll just keep driving the car. They're stupid. They don't care.
My buddy did that. He was like, I can't believe I bought a Tesla. And now this. I'm like, dude, I love you to pieces. You're one of my favorite people. Chill out, dude. It's just so crazy. Like, dude, politics have made everybody dumb.
If you threw everything out that had a connection to some asshole at the corporate level, your house would just be empty.
I mean, dude, I am showing amazing restraint, not trying to light up people. You know,
that's impressive considering your Twitter feed is unrestrained. I would say it's pretty aggressive.
Well, it's restrained in that my friends are tweeting things I think are absolutely retarded, and I'm not telling them it anymore. I'm just letting them be retarded.
Do you still type twitter.com when you want to go to X? I still type it every time.
Yeah,
Twitter.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Every time, dude. What did I have to say to you, Johnny? Oh, fuck. I forgot what I had to say.
Trump has his video. Trump goes, "Where's gays for Trump?" And the guy goes, "We're over here." And Trump goes, "You don't look gay."
Dude, I mean, like, so these polls keep telling us that, like, this thing's close. And I'm trying to figure out, outside of not shitting the bed in the debate with Trump, what has gone well, and like, what's gone well for Kamala Harris? She's
on Stern today. The big sellout Howard Stern is having her on today after.
But like every single interview she's done has gone awful.
Yeah, but her supporters don't see it that way. You know that.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. It's just like they're not good. And even the people on the shows are saying they're not good. Like when you watch the Oprah interview, Oprah's looking at her going, "What the fuck are you saying?"
Yeah. I mean, yeah, whatever. I mean, let's not. Trump can come across a little weird too. Let's be honest.
Trump can be a retard too, but I'm telling you, like, they're acting like these polls are close. I don't see anything she's doing to give anybody any kind of faith. Like, she's getting no
Who are
bumps.
you around? I mean, Dana's not into Kamala?
We haven't talked about. I'll ask her. Dana.
Yeah.
She's outside.
And then
I mean, my girl's mom that I see every now and then. I mean, she's over the moon. She's so happy with everything she's doing, and she thinks she's kicking ass. So
your girl,
my girl's mother. My girl doesn't give a shit about politics, but my girl's mother is all about it and loves Kamala and is so impressed with everything she's doing. So
it's real, Sam. It's real. Like, you meet these people, they're committed. They got like.
No, I had a friend of mine come the other day, and she was telling me that that her friend, I'll say, was working on a epic rap battle, and they're like, yeah, dude, they're like the Kamala Harris rapper crushed it, and I'm like, oh no, and I'm like, I gotta shut my mouth. I just gotta shut my mouth, and I just
Kamala
shut
Harris
my
rapper?
mouth.
What is that?
Well, you know, epic rap battles, you know, where they play like it's the best, Johnny. If you never never gone down epic rap battles?
No,
it's the fucking best, dude.
What is it, like freestyle or something?
Well, no, it's like they play characters. It'll be like Genghis Khan versus
I see.
blah blah blah, and it's like, it's so good, dude. It's so good.
Are they? So is it somebody that looks like Kamala, or
Yeah, they'll have somebody
like
play Kamala,
or-
and she'll rap, and it's probably against Trump, and
It's-
they'll make her look good and him look dumb.
Well, that's not really fair, is it? Because you have black versus. I mean, black people are better at rapping. Let's be honest.
The greatest rapper of all time is white, Johnny. I don't care
Yeah.
what you say.
Yeah, I know. You're probably right, but he's the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah, he's the Tiger Woods of that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though he's shady. By the way, this is how old I am. Eminem is going to be a grandpa. That's where we are in society.
Yeah,
good for him. Congratulations. Even though
You've heard his song where he calls out Diddy, where he says something about, like, if you take the P out of rape, it spells Diddy or some shit like that. And I was like, this was like, came out like a couple months, like his last album. It was like pretty. I was like, oh shit, dropping facts.
Great.
I don't understand how the P out of rape is P Diddy.
I'm not the rapper. He said something like that in one of his verses, and it's like just saying, like, he literally like was dropping little facts before.
Yeah, well, Eminem, I love you to pieces. You're one of my favorites all the time. Your early stuff is the greatest ever. Check out your boy Dr. Dre and what's he into? Okay, right.
What do you think about Kamala going on? What do you think about Kamala going on Call Me Daddy or Call Her Daddy or whatever that is?
Well, I mean, Johnny, you're on the internet. Was that received well at all? I mean, like, I'm seeing a bunch of people saying it wasn't a good interview, and that even the fans of that show hated the interview. So that's my whole thing.
Yeah, but
Like,
you know you're in a echo chamber, dude. I mean, I am.
So
too.
the New York Post is
the Post is a right wing paper. Yeah, the Post.
Okay. So can you look up right now, how great did she do? I mean, why did the girl, Johnny, why did the girl on the fucking show have to put out a fucking video explaining why she did it?
Let's see.
She basically was like,
Here's a story from The Atlantic. What Going on Call Her Daddy did for Kamala Harris. Conventional news shows lack the podcaster Alex Cooper's reach in young female middle America. Talking about how she attracted young female middle. Very few podcasters would apologize to their fans for clogging up their feed by interviewing a presidential candidate, but they're making a good thing out of what you just described. But Alex Cooper, the host of the popular podcast,
that's such a good swing. You know they're spinning that, Johnny.
I know, but I'm saying, you're asking me, did anybody say it was a good thing? And the Atlantic did, yeah.
Yeah, but you hear what they're saying, and it's bullshit. Like, oh yeah, her apologizing.
What she says was, I don't usually talk about politics. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. I get it, man. Dude, if she
and I pulled it from Broken Sam. I really want us to dig into it there, but there's that. We'll talk about the draft thing.
Okay.
Like, I mean, fucking.
The only thing good about Kamala Harris are these AI bots of her. She just looks like the most smoke show stripper and fucking ladyboy from Thailand. You know, she's just on fire. That's about it. That's it. That's all. Guys, see me live. Okay, see me live. I'm going to be this weekend. I'm going to be in Louisville, 4 shows. Grab your tickets now. Okay? Grab your tickets now. Louisville at the Murder Circus. Grab your tickets. Let's go. Tulsa, Oklahoma on the November 14th through the 16th, and then Tampa Bay at the end of the month. Still trying to put together some more shows to get that shit going. Yeah, dude. The premium content is on fire on SamTripoli.com. You can go to Rockfin. You can pay that for everybody there, or you can go to Sam Tripoli. Just get Sam Tripoli's my content. We got Dangerous. We got and then we got Giant Cash reading the Bible, and then we have a bunch of other stuff I put up every day.
And that's how you get your special, right? Is that how you get your special if you have premium content?
Well, we're working on that right now. So, yeah, we're gonna make that happen. If you want to look into invest into the in the markets, Cash Daddy's Patreon is right there. It's super fire. Patreon.com/Cash Daddies. Howie Dewey every day takes you through what to invest in the markets. If you go back, we got we're working on the Chaos Twins, another episode coming out, and all of our affiliates are fire. All of them are fire. All of them. Anything you need, we're going to add some more affiliates too. Buy gold and silver. We love our Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Go SamTripoli.gold. SamTripoli.gold. Join the Wolf Pack. Rife Technologies is fire as well. Rife Technologies, he'll get you right. AquaCure hydrogen brown gas. Harley Ray candles and crystals. My boy, Chemical Free Body, all the time, every time. Take it every day, all the time. Great supplements. Joel Staley will help you go from dad bod to shredded. EMF Rocks, fighting dirty energy. If you need stuff to keep the dirty energy from all the electronics around you, EMF Rocks is a place to go. Use the promo code Tinfoil Hat. Prometheus, if you're looking for a new website. And then if you love watching Xavier Guerrero ask random questions, and you're like, wow, that random question was somewhat on point, you can thank brainsupreme.co for that. That's right. Sign up, get 10% off, and you too can battle the forces of evil on Tinfoil Hat. Dude, Nuke Social, people's there. Conspiracy Social Club, all my audios there, my radio show, all my videos. And again, SamTripoli.com will be on my special will be on SamTripoli.com. So check it out. Anything else, boys?
Hit that like button, subscribe, and go to XG Marks the Spot for a Skank Fest vlog over there at XG Marks the Spot on YouTube. Thank you.
Check out Broken Sin everywhere. YouTube.com/SamTripoli if you want to help fight the censorship over there, where we're getting community strikes now for sending out positive vibes. Or you can check it out on Rumble too. It's Sam Tripoli on Rumble too, right, Sam?
It's Sam Tripoli. Well, so the special is going to be at rumble.com/quiet.
Yeah. I was sorry. Just your channel, though, if they want.
My channel is Sam Tripoli. Rumble.com/Sam Tripoli.
All right.
Bang, bang, pow. All right. Enjoy these highlights, guys.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
Oh, dude, I think if you're like anywhere from 22 to like 28, or I'd say 20, if you're a woman 22 to about 26 years old, you want to go all night long because you're not doing a lot of the work. So the other guy's going. So you're like, let's go, keep going. Yeah. And you're like, I need.
I like how you just said the other guy is going. So that was funny.
What?
You just had a little Freudian slip there, Sam. You said, the other guy is doing all the work. So that's
well, and what am I doing? Sitting in the corner?
You're the guy. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Sitting in the corner crying. Why? Hurry up. It's just ridiculous, dude. So anyways, they don't even
jerking off. Yeah.
They don't even tell you that
that's crazy. I never heard of a hotel not. That's the first hotel that's not got a phone.
They have made everything way more complicated, and it's just somebody justifying their job. That's it. Like, to go to your hotel, you have to put your key on to get let in. Then you have to press a button. It tells you what elevator to go to, and then it takes you right. There's no elevators in the elevator. There's no elevator buttons in the elevator anymore. It's just
wait. Where do you tell it that you want what floor?
So they have these like weird gates you got to go through. You got to put.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So they don't have to have a person standing there,
right? So you got to put there. It opens up.
Okay.
You go through. Then there's like a little touch screen presentation
inside the elevator.
No, outside the elevator.
Okay.
And you got to press your floor, and then it tells you what elevator to go to, and then it brings you right up. Yeah, it's just like I get it. is it necessary?
Wait, yeah. Did we need to reinvent the elevator?
No, it's like when you go to your favorite website and then suddenly it has a whole new design, and you're like, "Why did we do that?" Oh, because someone's job there is to innovate, and they have to make shit up.
Yeah. What the great thing is that somebody thought that was going to be a selling point for that hotel. What's it called? Circa. It's like, dude, have you heard about Circa? They got those elevators.
Oh, they got those elevators, dog.
With the buttons on the outside.
Everything is analytical.
Yeah, the buttons are on the outside.
It's so it's so stupid. So you go up there. There's like no, you can't. So you're just looking for a phone to call, and you can't find it. They don't even say, "Hey, I had to call down to the
front desk
on my regular phone to ask them a question."
Which I guess if you're thinking, like, okay, hey, nobody uses the phones in the rooms anymore. Everybody already has a phone. Why are we doing this? Then I get what they were thinking.
Yeah, but
they should
shouldn't
tell you
you
that.
tell me?
Yeah, exactly.
That, hey, by the way, AI is taking over this hotel.
That's what it's like, right? Yeah,
Right.
it's totally
Right.
that. Yeah.
So the new thing in Vegas is, everybody talks about Vegas is better when the mob ran it. They're nickeling and diming you to death. They're just
It's
nickeling and
unreal.
diming you to death. So my buddy calls me up. Okay. My buddy calls me up. He owns Toe Hop. Okay. He calls me up.
Toe hop?
Toe Hold. Okay.
Toe hold?
Yeah. Toe Hold. Hold on. Let me. Yeah. No. Okay.
Toad hop? Is that what you're
No.
talking
Toe Hold. AG.
Okay. You said toe hop.
AG, who's a Freemason.
about? Okay.
Okay. Calls me up. He's like, "Hey, dude, do you want to come to dinner with me tonight at Caesar's Palace? It's my buddy's birthday. We're celebrating. I'm taking him out. You want to join us?" I'm like, "I love AG,
That's his name?
Yeah, AG's his name. He owns Toe Hold Sandals. Look it up. Toe Hold
Toe
Sandals.
hold sandals.
Yes. And he's a great guy, and he is a Freemason.
Good for him.
So
Did he try doing weird handshakes or anything?
No. So he calls me up. He's like, "Meet me over there." I'm like, "Okay, I'll meet you there." So I go there, and dude, Vegas is insane. It's not.
Gotta get him sponsored podcast.
Yeah, I would love that.
Nice website.
Yeah, it's so nice, dude. He's
Got
making
Joe Rogan quotes on there.
Yeah, it's so nice.
They are the best flip flops I've ever had. Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
It's a direct
Johnny.
quote.
Hey, Johnny, could you not say with attitude?
What do you mean? I'm just saying. I mean,
no,
like I said
sell it like Russell Brand would, real quick. That's a little better way to sell it.
Wait, well, how would he sell it? You
He'd
tell
be
me.
like enthusiastic.
That was enthusiasm.
No, you were very like negative energy.
They're the best flip flops I've ever had.
No, you gotta be like, "Oh, okay. Listen, they're the best flip flops I've ever had. Oh my god, it's like Jesus wore them. That's how great it is. You see how excited
No, but I was reading what he said.
I know, Johnny, but you gotta sell it.
Oh, I gotta make shit up. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, be excited.
Okay, let me try it again. Okay. These are the best flip flops I've ever had. It's amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
There you
Was
go.
that better? Okay.
Yes, Johnny.
Okay.
Johnny, you had that like late night info commercial enthusiasm that gets people to buy useless shit they don't need. That's what we need. Okay. But anyways, AG started this out of nowhere. He started his own, and they're making millions of dollars selling sandals.
They sell wallets too. Nice.
Yeah, they sell
What's
everything,
that, like
dude.
Snakeskin wallets, nice.
So he invites me. I love it. I show up there. Traffic is nuts. Okay, Vegas has gone crazy. You try to get in this?
Are they really that expensive?
Yes, dude.
$7,000?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, these are $1,000. But
Yeah.
these Himalayan crocodile sandals are flip
Is
flops.
that real elephant?
Gray elephant.
Damn,
I
dude.
don't know, man.
Damn, dude. What's that? Praying mantis? Green?
Why?
What's that? Trans
Well,
clown?
these are $795. Those are the affordable ones.
Those are nice. Okay.
They must be.
Johnny, so I go there. Good luck trying to find how to get into Caesar's Palace. It is chaos. It is an ecosystem like I've never seen before.
Yeah, I was there over the summer to see Garth Brooks.
It's
wild.
crazy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's like, by the way, the thing that Tom and Christina started about Garth Brooks being a serial, that's starting to get traction.
Yeah. Oh,
have you seen that? People,
it's everywhere. Yeah.
They thought it was they made it a joke, but is there something to it?
Yeah.
Where are the bodies? Right.
Apparently, he hates that. By the way, Garth Brooks.
You don't think so? The corporate guy hates that people are calling him a serial killer. The only person who's ever used that as a selling point is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is the only one who marks himself as possibly being a serial killer,
He's okay
just to
with
make
that.
himself more likable.
Yeah, that's the most likable thing about him.
Right? It's so crazy to me. So I go there, Johnny, and I'm trying to find, because, dude, they're just funneling you into valet. That's all they want you to do, so they can charge you.
I hate valeting. Yeah.
Right? So I finally find it. Johnny, do you know how, if you want to sell park for, let's say, just an hour, maybe 2, I'll give you 2 hours. Guess how much Caesar Palace costs you? Guess how much it charges you, excuse me.
$30.
$25.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
What are
It's
you
crazy.
doing?
I stopped. I used to rent a car when we go there. Now I don't anymore. I just let somebody drive because it's not. They rip you off so much. Yeah.
So this is it. So I go eat with these guys. AG's a good guy. It's all his jujitsu friends, his striking friends. They're all 10th Planet guys. I'm a 10th Planet guy. They're all killer black belts. I will get into my weekend with jujitsu. Okay. So, anyways, we're hanging out. It's a good time. Everybody's talking. They're discussing Shane Gillis and Skankfest with me. They all hate political correctness. It's so weird. Everyone hates political correctness, but they can't say anything about it because they don't want to get in trouble at work, which is the whole part of the plan.
Completely.
So, anyways, I ordered. I mean, dude. I mean, he paid for everything. I hate making people pay for my food. I hate it.
Yeah.
I like to pay.
Yeah.
I bought everybody dinner the whole weekend. Like the whole weekend, I'm just buying because I'm old school like that. We fight over the check. That's how we do it. You can guess how many people fought me for the check? Zero fought me for the check. But I do it because I love them.
Wait, they invited you. The guy who sells
$7,500. No. He paid for everything.
Oh, okay.
Make no illusions of that.
Okay, I was about to say.
I was just telling you that I don't like that.
Okay.
Because I like to pay. I like to pay. But I ordered a lot of food. I felt very bad. And he's like, no, dude, go for it.
Oh, that's good. Good for him.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Nobody fought you. I was worried.
No. And, dude, I'm joking.
Right on.
Okay. About nobody fighting for it. I saw some friends that I hadn't seen in a while, like from my recovery group. Gladly bought it. Anyway.
Oh, I see. Okay. Somebody else.
I was joking. I know that some of them listen to podcasts. It's a joke.
Okay. I'm going to get a text about 2 hours after the show. Hey, could you take
Nope. You won't have to. Anyways. So, Johnny, I'm going back. I have to run and do my set because I had a bunch of sets at Skankfest.
How many did you do?
Well, they booked me for 6.
6
sets.
Wow.
But I ended up doing like 1,000.
More than 6.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And
when's the last time you went up that much in a weekend?
It was exhausting. I'm going to be honest with you. The hardest part is coming up with new material to do for these people because the same people come to every show.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So you got to keep mixing it up, and I'll get into what I learned, and I'm gonna get into that in a few. But so I'm like I don't mind. Dude, he's paying for everything. I feel like a bitch, but okay. And I go. Hey, I'm not bitching, but did you guys know it's $25 to park here? And they go, yeah, but we're local, so we get in for free, right? Which is like,
how's that work?
Okay, because they scan their driver's license. We'll get into that, okay? We'll get into that. But, so I'm like, okay, I used to be a resident. I'm not anymore. Granted, it was only like for 6 years, but. So anyways, I'm like, I got to run to my set. I love you guys. I got to go. We run off, and it's so funny because everybody in 10th Planet all know each other. Like, it doesn't matter where they're from. You'd be like, oh, yeah, I trained this guy. They're like, boom, boom, boom. Then you tell them what school. They know exactly who owns that school and how they're doing. It's like crazy to me. So anyways, I'm about to go pay. I'm about to run off. I have to figure out how to get out of here, dude. It's in the Caesars Palace Mall, which was one of my last jobs when I worked in Vegas. I worked in, did I already tell you?
The Forum, you mean?
Yeah, the Forums at Caesars Palace.
Nice,
I worked there at Boogie's Diner. And did I already tell you about Boogie's Diner? That half of it was a diner, half of it was high-end clothing.
No.
And it was just the most gorgeous models working there.
I bet so.
And they would just talk to me all the time. And then what they didn't eat, I would go in the back and eat.
Yeah, you said that.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, you're eating that? dude, they were eating. I go, I would eat their assholes. Do you think I care what they put in their mouth?
It's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, that's who I am. Okay. So, anyways,
Fucking animal.
dude, I invented ass eating. I don't care what anybody says. If
Nobody's debating you for the right to say they invented ass eating.
Hey, I'm just telling you, if you can find someone who can prove they ate ass before 1978, I
bet you the Greeks were getting down in the butt.
I bet you they were too. But you know, it's lost and then it's brought back.
There's a reason Tom Hanks moved there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. It's so funny. Dylan on Conspiracy Social Club is just starting to go down these fucking holes, these rabbit holes. Yeah, he's
really?
starting to flip over. It's so great, dude.
You're gonna break him too.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. I don't know if I should make this announcement on the show because
go ahead.
It's not set, but I think Kellen might want to come back to the show.
Oh really?
There's the streets are talking.
Breaking news! Breaking news, everybody.
I don't know if we should announce that. That might be the call for.
No, the call after the show.
We might be having Callum back. We don't know yet. We don't know.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.